Hey, let's bring in our good friend Brian Dulik from the Medina Gazette. Outstanding contributor for the Associated Press. Got a lot of stuff going on each and every day. You can check him out on X at Brian Dulik. Brian, good afternoon. How are you this afternoon?
I'm well, Sam. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. A lot of stuff going on today, Brian, between the baseball and the NBA free agency and the Steelers making moves, the WNBA coming back to Cleveland. There's a gambling thing going on now with the NBA. There's a lot going on. But wanted to have you on to primarily talk a little Guardians. We maybe roll over and talk a little Cavs and some trade talk and what have you. But Brian, I think as we sit here today, the Guardians are 40-42, about to embark on a pretty tough road trip coming up. Where do you sit with this team? Is the pilot light just about out, or are you still kind of holding out a little bit of hope?
Unfortunately, I feel the same way that you do. I think that the pilot light is just about out, and they've got some real tough decisions to make over the next couple of weeks. I don't really think it's realistic for them to be considered a playoff team either, but I'm not sure what they have to do to make it happen. The talent isn't here within the organization. That's pretty clear no matter how many times Stephen Vogt wags his finger and insists that it is. So you've got to look outside it, but in order to do that, you've got to shed some salary. And I don't see teams lining up to try and take on Lane Thomas or Nolan Jones and their contracts to free up some money for the Guardians to get someone else. So it looks very bleak right now.
It does, Brian. And, last year was one of those years, man. It was a magical ride. Everything came together. Guys had career years. Stephen Vogt came in just riding on that beautiful white horse. And look, we made it to the ALCS, and now reality has set in. And I'm starting to wonder, Brian, how much longer am I going to turn on the radio or the TV or make a trip up to Progressive Field? And am I going to hear or see Stephen Kwan in a Guardians uniform?
Yeah, I don't think that's a concern at all. Kwan is not going anywhere. There are probably 5 or 6 players only on the roster who you can say are absolutely not going anywhere. Kwan's not going anywhere unless they would. I mean, the series of events that would have to happen for that to play out and him not to be on the team it's too difficult to even get through. But no, that's not going to happen. He's going to be here. Jose is going to be here. Beebs will be here. Maybe not many guys beyond that, you can say for sure, but no, he will definitely be here.
Because I kind of got concerned a couple of days ago, or maybe it was a couple of weeks ago, where people were talking about people in Stephen Kwan's camp that there was no way he was going to, he wasn't going to give a Jose Ramirez hometown discount, and he is definitely going to test the waters, and he's probably not going to stay. And I started thinking, oh, well, if they know he's not going to stay and his value is really high, and if the Guardians are thinking about internally maybe packing it in for this year, I would not have been surprised to see him on the move. And you think that he's going to stick around?
Yeah, they're not doing anything with him now. This is just a negotiating tactic by Kwan's people. It's no secret the Guardians wanted to have a deal done before opening day this year. It didn't happen because Kwan's desires for what he wanted, as you said, were very different from what the team is. But that would be such a white flag to the fans and in so many ways. I can't even go there because it's not realistic. Unless the Yankees say, hey, we'll give you Max Fried for Stephen Kwan. Well, of course you'll do that. But no, I don't think there's any reason for fans to worry about that at all right now.
All right, we will keep our eye on that. Brian Dulik is our guest here on the Sam Bourquin Show, 1310 WDPN. So we all know that the trade deadline is coming up on the 31st. Then you have the traditional September call-ups. You expand the roster to 40 or 40 plus. Brian, how much longer do you think we'll have to wait to see C.J. Capus and a Chase DeLauder and a Juan Brito and guys like that?
The Juan Brito situation is the one that's most intriguing to me because once we learn how long Gabriel Arias is going to be out, it would seem like this is the perfect opportunity, even though Juan has not played a whole lot since coming back from his injury, to just throw him out there and see what happens. We've seen enough of Brian Rocchio. I think you and I would agree on that.
Yep.
And he's the only other option. So let's just bring Brito up. He probably would have made the team coming out of spring training had Arias not been out of options. And this was kind of a foregone conclusion. So That would be my hope. Do I think they'll do it? No, I do not. I don't think we'll see that. I think we'll see Rocchio for this road trip, and then they'll figure out what they're going to do once they hit the All-Star break. Chase DeLauder will be up very, very shortly. CJ Kafis, here's the thought. Internally, they're not sure he's ready for the majors because it's been such a stratospheric rise for him.
Mm-hmm.
And he really has played his way into being a great prospect as opposed to being one all along. They want him to season a little bit longer in the minors before they make a move there. But yeah, the DeLauder situation is coming to a head. He'll be here soon. Jonathan Rodriguez is not a major league outfielder on any level, but they don't have anybody else except for DeLauder to take that final spot on the roster. So Rodriguez is just biding time for them to decide it's time to bring Chase up.
Not that I'm saying to rush this young man, because I certainly do not want to. And what are you hearing on the latest with Travis Bazzana as far as the timetable to just start playing ball again and doing some more stuff in the minors before we even think about bringing him up here down the road?
Yeah, it's unfortunate that the timing of this injury, because had he not gotten hurt, perhaps you even consider to make that call in the next couple of weeks and shuffle the infield around. He is not going to be in a position to help this team probably until September at the earliest now, which is a couple months after before the season, they thought, all right, we may be looking at Travis Bazzana come July, but they really wanted him to get half of a season in this year at AA before they consider doing something with the majors. So in fact, this may blow him completely out to 2026, but that's not even on the table right now because he's missed so much time.
Brian, did the Guardians, how do I phrase this? Did they underestimate what Josh Naylor and Andres Jimenez brought to this club with Josh's power and Jimenez's defense? I know they wanted to slash salary. They've been doing that forever. But did they panic a little bit there? Because, gosh, those two guys are really missed, in my opinion.
Yeah, especially clubhouse dynamics wise, Andres Jimenez is missed, and it was kind of a love fest when the Blue Jays came to town last week with how many players who work in the ballpark just embraced him and how happy he was to see everybody and see people's kids. That's the one that's a tough situation, but I completely justify it because his salary is so out of whack with everything. They paid him the year he was hitting 300, and that was never going to happen again. Not dissimilar to a Ty Jerome contract that he's going to get from someone else. That's a whole nother story.
Right.
The Josh Naylor one is a tough one because they knew they weren't going to be able to keep him after this year, no matter what, because he was going to command too big of a contract. And it would be foolish to give $100+ million to a guy whose injury history and serious injury history tells you he's going to have a shortened career. And at some point, relatively soon, he's not going to be able to run at all. So I had no problem with that, but it's a huge blow to the lineup. And if you were serious about trying to contend this year and maybe push one step further to the World Series, I agree. That's not a trade you make. You keep him until July and you see what's going on. And that has come back and bit them very badly.
Brian Dulik is our guest, does a terrific job of contributing for the Associated Press, a great job with the Medina Gazette for many, many years. So with a 40-42 team, and again, they're going to have to fight, scratch, and claw, Brian, even to think about getting into the wild card. What do you suppose is going through the mind of Stephen Vogt right now with all that he's been through in the short time that he's been the skipper of this franchise?
I'd love to get in there because it's clear the words that are coming out of his mouth are not what he actually believes. He can't. He's too smart to be saying what he's saying with the stiff upper lip. It hasn't been a great stretch for Stephen Vogt either.
Yeah.
This entire season. His lineup decisions have been iffy at times, not riding hot hands like when Daniel Schneemann was having a great stretch and not just bleeding that until it ran dry, but continuing to give other guys opportunities, and the constant juggling of the right field situation, the disservice he did to John Kenzie Noel by not playing him more to just see what he could do at this level offensively, the way he's mishandled the bullpen. I can go on. And this isn't to heap on saying, oh, this is all Stephen Vogt's fault, but he has not had a great year. And I think it's been a learning experience that things aren't going to be as easy as they were last year when everything just came together. And he's got to find a way to get these guys to dig out of the situation. I don't know if he can, but that's a heck of a tough spot for him to be in. Fortunately, there's strong clubhouse leadership with Jose, with Carlos Santana, huge clubhouse leader, and guys like Shane Bieber and Tanner Bybee have taken important leadership roles with that pitching staff. Bo Naylor as well, becoming a really good leader behind the scenes and behind the plate. So he's got some guys who can help him. But the team meeting that the team called over the weekend after the game, while Vogt was holding his press conference with us, and I'm going to call it a tense mood in the clubhouse after that game,
Mm-hmm.
It's certainly not hunky-dory, and Vogt's going to have to address some issues there too.
You know, you must have been reading my mind. My very next question was going to be to address the team-only meeting the other night. Now, we don't know what was said because, well, we're not on the team. But the next day they come out, and they're on fire, Brian. They scored 6 runs, and then a 6-1 lead turns into a 9-6 loss. And they had more mental mistakes, more physical errors. That led me to think, man, what is going on right now?
That was as big of a gut punch as you could have, because didn't it look like, finally things are on track?
Yeah.
And then Matt Festa and the bullpen came in and just blew that away and might have delivered the knockout blow for the season, considering the way they're swirling the drain right now. I don't care that it was one player that, it was really Festa blew that entire game with the way he started it out, but there were the mental errors. My gosh, these guys are playing Little League defense. They're making dumb decisions on the bases. That just can't happen. If I were Vogt, I'd have probably come down a heck of a lot harder on these guys after the game on Saturday, because then they come out yesterday and they were as moribund as they were 2 nights earlier against Sonny Gray, against this. In fact, I'll tell you how bad it was. We talked to Matthew Libator after the game, and I asked him, could he see the Guardians pressing immediately from the start of that game? And to paraphrase what he said, he basically said his command was hit or miss. So he's not sure what they were thinking, saying, he wasn't that good, and they were terrible.
And they were, they've had some non-competitive at bats here lately, and plus the mental errors, it's really turned sour. All right, Brian, one more on the Guards. So they got the Cubbies, and then the Tigers coming up. Holy cow, this is going to be a rough week.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
Tarek Skubal over the weekend.
Did you watch him last night?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
If you're a baseball fan, that gives you some reason to be excited about this weekend, because it's a joy to watch guys like that pitch. But yeah, this could be, wow, things may get a whole lot worse in the next 6 days.
Yeah, they could. Brian Dulik is our guest. All right, let's do a little Cavs, and we'll jump over to the announcement about the WNBA, and then we'll let you roll. And I really appreciate you coming on today. The Cavaliers with the Okoro for Lonzo Ball move. It certainly looks like Ty Jerome is pretty much out the door. Sam Merrill got a nice little contract. What's your take on the Cavs and where they sit here as we get ready to flip the calendar over to July?
Yeah, I thought it was a very positive weekend for them. Being able to get out from under the final few years of Okoro's contract was a good move. And you understand this because you know the NBA. Both Okoro and Lonzo Ball were signed by their teams to deals strictly for them to be traded.
Correct.
They were contracts that fit into the workings of the team and their roles on the team, but they were also very affordable to where they could be moved. And in Lonzo Ball's case, with only 1 year left and then a team option for next year, you could not ask for a better situation for the Cavaliers to shed Okoro's contract and to bring in a pass first point guard. Mind you, he's a pass first point guard because he just flat out can't shoot. But if you could get him to be able to give you 12 minutes a game, maybe 15, and stay healthy, it's a heck of a pickup. Because if you remember last season during the playoffs, Ty Jerome and the other cast of characters couldn't even get the ball up the doggone floor, which is why Donovan Mitchell had to go 94 feet with the basketball and somehow still was the best player in that series, not named Tyrese Halliburton. So that's a great move. And I love the Miro move, too, because of this. He didn't test the market.
Less
than $10 million a year for his contract, locking him up for 4 years. He signed a below-market deal without even talking to anybody else. That's a terrific setup. Now, the only thing that they need to do to really make this a quality couple weeks, if they can find anyone to take on the final 2 years of Max Strus's $32 million
good luck with
albatross. That the worst move Kobe Altman has made in the last 5 years. That sign and trade that took away all their salary cap mobility 2 years ago is inexcusable, and it remains that way. It'll be a pretty doggone good offseason if they can do that.
Yeah,
it was a good weekend for the boys.
Yeah, I thought so too. With all the crazy stuff going on in the NBA, and I think the Cavaliers were just kind of there. I don't think they were over the radar or under. They were just there. They were being them. And I think they had a pretty good weekend. All right, the official news coming today from Cleveland and the WNBA, Brian, that the league is coming back to the North Coast, 2028. They will play at Rocket Arena, and they will start up again. Your thoughts on the announcement? Will it work this time? And if so, what makes you believe that it will?
Can I circle back for 10 seconds?
Absolutely.
On what we were just talking about. Okay, just to add that on. With the Achilles injury to Tyrese Halliburton and Achilles injuries in Boston and Milwaukee,
wide open.
The Cavaliers running it back may make them the best team in the conference coming into next year. So that's something that fans need to keep in the back of their mind, despite all the disappointment in the postseason.
Yep, couldn't agree more.
It's an interesting move. I covered the Rockers from the middle of their first season until the very end. In fact, I was the guy who broke the story that the team was folding.
Ooh, okay.
I don't know, I guess is the short way to put this. This team will be essentially run by Dan Gilbert's son, Grant, who is being groomed to take over the Cavaliers from him, likely down the road, as opposed to short term. There's no way you make money with this deal. The league has never come close to making money at any point. And the fact that all these teams are just being purchased by NBA clubs as summer filler dates, like it was when the league was formed back in the mid-'90s, I just don't know. If you treat it like a minor league team, like the Cleveland Monsters are, you're going to lose $50 to $100 million a season because nobody pays for minor league hockey.
Right.
The sponsors, when they buy a sponsorship, in exchange for their money, the team gives them, thousands upon thousands of tickets, and they give them away.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot make that remotely close to workable with a women's basketball team. So I'm curious to see if they can make this work. There was some talk when this idea was floated that they would play most of their games at Public Hall, because that would be a financially very workable situation, knowing you're not going to get crowds that would be bigger than Public Hall many times, and it would be a nice fit with the charge.
Mm-hmm. But
apparently they're going all in at the arena, and I just don't know. The initial joy will be there for a year. I'm kind of in the middle on this, but frankly pessimistic. And I loved my 6 years around the team. It was one of the highlights of my career, but I just don't know if this works in a market that's never been able to financially support two major league teams strongly at the same time. Yeah. Let alone three and a couple of minor league teams.
Yeah, I agree, Brian. I mean, 1997 to 03 is when they were there. Their record was 108 and 112, but it just didn't click. And great, if a league has never made money ever in how many decades, what makes look? And I know, okay, Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, Paige Beckers, yeah, I get it. But if you have never made money, and look, Cleveland's jumped in 28, Philly's coming in 30. They're also going to be in there are two other cities they named. Detroit, the Detroit Shock might be coming back. And there's another team. They added Golden State this past year. It just seems like not a good business model, Brian. I don't know. I hope it works, but I just don't see it.
And I know we're getting close to the hour, so I'll keep this brief. But because of the coverage that I had with those teams, I got to see a lot of the actual books for the Rockers and the Detroit Shock because of the people in the front office trusting me. Gordon Gund and Bill Davidson are incredibly smart businessmen. They had unbelievable staffs of people, salespeople, marketing people who are better than what the Cavs and the Pistons have now. They couldn't even come up with a concept for how to make anything work. These things just bled money in a much better environment, economic environment. So, good luck to Dan. Good luck to him. I don't see it.
Yeah, I don't either, Brian. Hey, I appreciate you coming on today. This was fun. We'll do it again here down the road, and we'll see where our teams and organizations stand at that particular point in time. Thanks, Brian.
Hey, I always enjoy talking to you, Sam. Have a great day.
You bet. Brian Dulik, Medina Gazette, does a great job as a contributor for the Associated Press for a long, long time. Yeah, I hope it works, but I don't see it.